at number 10, 8 Years of Steve. The majority of these theories come by way of the front page of the internet, the powerful Reddit fan theories page to be specific. This insane Minecraft fan theory is proposed by a user named Wolfruna. They believe that Steve is much more than a simple humanoid, not trying to say he's a god because, well, his name sounds like he works in accounting, but he's certainly unique compared to his surroundings. The only other species in Minecraft that bears a resemblance would be the zombies, and this theory suggests that Steve is the last of his kind after a massive plague wiped out his people. Here's where it gets insane though. They think the reason why Steve flees deep underground with the Ender Dragon's egg was to jumpstart the human race using his own DNA. However, the Endermen have been using their power to create an infinite amount of worlds, each with their own Steve clone. So many Steves. Why do we need more than one Steve? Each world is based upon the original Steve's world at the time that he conquered the Ender Dragon just 8 years before he went underground. Now each of these Steve clones have 8 years to redirect their world to a path of progress versus destruction. In at number 9, Jungle Temple Zombie Pigs. This insane Minecraft theory comes to us from the user PromC. It delves into the lore of the jungle temples and zombie pigmen. The theory analyzes the purpose of these abandoned jungle temples and suggests that during a zombie apocalypse that affected the pigmen and the villagers, they sought asylum in these temples to fight off any attackers attempting to wipe them out. As supplies dwindled in the temples, the zombies slowly began to overrun the area, forcing the remaining few to flee through portals until the plague was over and their world had recovered. In at number 8, Robot Steve. Due to the way that Steve looks, the majority of players rightfully assume that he's human, a sort of proxy to represent the player controlling him in the world of Minecraft. A user on Reddit by the name of Nameless88 on the other hand doesn't buy it just one bit. Nameless88 thinks that Steve is actually a robot. Sure, he's capable of some pretty non-human things, which include running at ridiculous speeds, breaking down trees with his hands. Oh, wait. Maybe he is a robot. Let's explore that. He can jump 13 feet high, fall from any height, and land with almost no damage if there's some water blocks underneath him. He's an expert blacksmith, a master painter, can sew and dye leather armor, and even turn diamonds into weapons. Oh, and let's not forget that he eats an entire rotisserie chicken in just a few bites. This theory may sound insane, but I'm about it. In at number 7, zombies or magic creatures. User PromC didn't just stop there with his jungle temple theories. Here's another one courtesy of this Minecraft fanatic. It's an insane theory, but one that has a bit of rationale to it at least. PromC theorizes that the zombies you encounter in the game aren't actually zombies, but some sort of magic-based creature. What if they are actually enemies raised from the dead, sent to face off with Steve, but the whole Dead Rising thing is more meant to fool us into thinking that they were once just like us? Sort of a psychological tactic to lower our guard. Although I don't know anyone that would show sympathy for a creature that wants to eat your flesh. The evidence for this theory is that we never actually see any of the humans dying and then coming back to life. Also, unlike the villager zombies, these ones cannot be cured. In at number 6, villager intelligence. Just when you think he got out of the insane Minecraft theory game, PromC is back with another revelation for us. Most people assume that because the villagers look different and we can't really communicate with them, that they must be some sort of unintelligent race of humans. PromC, on the other hand, believes there is much more that meets the eye. No Transformers in disguise jokes in the chat. Please. Our perspective of their intelligence is a byproduct of players comparing them to, well, themselves. But if you look at how we trade with them, you'll start to think there's more to them. I was about to do the Transformers thing again. We buy these enchanted items from them, which means at a base level they at least understand magic, which is impressive to everyone except magicians and Doctor Strange. The villagers are actually very smart just in their own ways. They can craft a number of things that Steve can't even craft. And at number 5, time travel. This fan theory has been featured in many YouTube videos about this topic and has garnered a significant amount of attention on Reddit. It's titled The Plot of Minecraft and was written by user Bloom and Juge. They believe that Steve is actually a time traveler. It's based around the theory that at one point there was this huge nuclear / zombie apocalypse that left the world of Minecraft void of any intelligent life. The empty world of Minecraft is actually Earth in the future. With the introduction of other dimensions in the game, such as discovering the Nether, it's quite possible that Steve either escaped the desolate direction of the past events and has arrived in the future to rebuild his former world, along with the task of wiping out all that evil that inherited it. That's a hard word to say back to back. Inherited it. Inherited. It's like one word. And at number 4, soul sand. We're not exactly sure who first dropped this insane soul sand lore, but without a doubt it's a little more than insane, which is why it made this list. While in the nether, you will inevitably be caught off guard by these odd blocks of sand that have little faces of screaming ghosts on them. Kinda like General Zod getting locked up in ice. Some will say it's quicksand, but others suggest that the nether is actually hell and the soul sand blocks are waiting for their next victim. It's theorized that if you stand on them for too long, the sand will steal your soul as you slowly sink into the block. In at number 3, revenge for mankind. There are several clues throughout the game that suggest the Endermen had invaded the world of Minecraft in search of resources, and after a battle of epic proportions, mankind had been listed in the extinct species category. User parasites suggest that humans had created these end portals for which Endermen had traveled through to expand the end. After the humans had destroyed these portals, it was already too late. The world was now filled with zombies and skeletons, and now that Steve is the sole survivor and quite possibly the creator of the strongholds, he seeks out the Ender Dragon to avenge the fallen. It's a cool theory that sounds like a great plot for a Netflix original. I'd watch that. In at number 2, disc 11 and 13. An interesting theory to the world of Minecraft are these discs that play music. Back in the day, I believe we called them CDs. Perhaps the developers were trying to spark some nostalgia for its older players, but even if that's not the case, there's something creepy specifically regarding discs 11 and 13. When players found these discs, which are usually pretty well hidden, they played this very eerie sound that prompted many to investigate. User Lego551 found that a Minecraft wiki contributor had run the disc 11 through a spectrogram, which resulted in some strange formations. Most people will pick out the numbers in that photo, but if you look closely, you can actually make out a face. In the recording, you can actually hear a familiar sound of Enderman teleporting before it finally goes to static. Could the face be an imprint of Steve or a human like Steve letting the Enderman through the portal? Guess we'll never know. Last but not least, in our number 1 spot, the end is the end. This one had to go in our number 1 spot because not only is it the end of this video, but it's an insane theory about the ending of the game as well. User Bookworm17 believes that the portals we use in the game aren't transporting us to different dimensions along the same kind of timelines, but instead they're actually doorways through time. The very landscape of the nether could be easily confused for a sort of hell-like location, but Bookworm thinks it's the beginning, a primordial time where life was just getting started, which means when you arrive at the end, it's actually the end of it all. Chronologically speaking, that is. The theory suggests that the landscape of these broken floating platforms with dragons and Endermen is the true end of days for the Minecraft world. It's a depressing theory, sure, because it means that everything you did throughout the game has no impact whatsoever on what was without a doubt going to be the end anyways. We don't want to believe that though, and that's why it's our number 1 insane Minecraft theory, because I don't want it to be real. It can't be real.
And it's end, the beginning. The achievement you get for getting to the end is the end. The one you get for killing the Wither, however, is the beginning. Most people will typically fight the Ender Dragon before the Wither, since the Wither is commonly seen as the more difficult boss. So why would it be the beginning? Well, many Minecrafters seem to think that there was an ancient race of players that could build, mine, and do everything that the player can. However, they were wiped off the face of the planet by something, leaving us as the only remaining member of that long-forgotten species. But what could have wiped them out? What could have chased them into the end dimension? Well, some think the Wither. They had summoned the Wither accidentally and weren't strong enough to defeat it, so they fled, hiding in the end. But as we know, the end portal was closed. Why? How? Obviously someone had to stay to close the portal, and not everyone would be able to make it to safety. A terrifying thing, knowing that you're doomed. And at 9, Enderman Origin. Speaking of the beginning, how did the Endermen come to be? How did these beings get created? The simple answer is Notch, but the in-game answer could be a lot more sinister. Some people believe that the Endermen are actually the ancient race of builders chased to the end by the Wither, and over time evolution took hold. The only food they eventually had was the chorus fruits that we see, eventually bestowing these men and women with their abilities of teleportation. They grew taller to reach the fruit more easily, and they became the same pitch black of the void to hide from their dragon oppressor. But why hate us? Why come after us if we so much as look at them? Jealousy? Could they be mad that they had to give up everything to survive, yet here we are, thousands of years later, looking just like they did? Or perhaps they want us for food, thinking eating us will give them their powers back, like how the chorus fruit gave its powers to them. The Endermen are the only other mob able to place or pick up full blocks, and I mean even their name alludes to them being human. Endermen. Men of Ender. Human. An innate dragon tyrant. When you kill the Ender Dragon, you get the achievement Free the End, which is normally seen as you being able to explore the End freely. However, what if that means something more? I mean, the Endermen did have to turn the same color as the Void in order to camouflage while the dragon flew around willy-nilly. What if that's due to the fact that he is a tyrant that forced them to become his servants? I'm sure that the End Crystals weren't there from the beginning, especially because we can make them ourselves, and we can even re-summon the dragon after we've killed it the first time. This gives me the idea that maybe the dragon wasn't there from the start. Maybe the ancient builders fled to the End, lured the Wither there, and summoned the dragon as a last resort. In a one-on-one fight, the Ender Dragon does prevail, and Ant Venom even made a video about the Ender Dragon versus 50 Withers, and the dragon still won in 1.9. So what if the dragon was summoned to save them from the Wither, but they ended up getting stuck there, and since they couldn't kill the dragon to open the portal, they had to obey it. That's pretty scary to think about. The thing that you summoned as your savior turning on you and forcing you to serve them for thousands of years. Yikes. And it's 7 Illagers. The Illagers are probably one of the scariest things in game, at least lore-wise. A version of the villagers who use black magic, attempting to control life and death itself. They get exiled because of their vile ways, and develop a grudge towards those villagers. So much so that whenever possible they will send out scouts to find and wipe out as many villages as possible. It could be why we see abandoned villages with zombie villagers inside. Villagers have ransacked these towns and left whatever villagers were remaining to be eaten by zombies, a fate worse than death. MatPat and others also posit that perhaps these Illagers are kidnapping villagers to increase their numbers, due to the cruel experiments resulting in the creation of the Ravagers. Ravagers are similar to villagers, and there is no way that Illagers would sacrifice their already limited numbers to create them. Ravagers are definitely not natural mobs, so this could be all about one thing: revenge. Wiping out those who cast them aside for being different, and playing with the concept of life. And at 6, Wither Skeleton. Wither skeletons are found in nether fortresses, another structure no doubt built by ancient builders. However, where are these rare skeleton variants coming from? MatPat and others on Reddit have proposed the idea that maybe these are just the bodies of fallen builders, buried in or absorbed by the soul sand we know has faces of screaming souls trapped inside. The skeletons left over could have been birthed from the harsh climate of the nether or the blazes found in the very same structures. Having to fight off the reincarnated burnt skeletons of your former friends and family is horrific, but doing that in literal hell is too much. This could be how they discovered the unique properties of soul sand, and this then leads to them accidentally summoning the Wither after so many failed attempts at bringing their lost comrades back from death. Halfway through number 5, what are ghasts? Ghasts, the giant floating jellyfish of the nether. What the hell are they really? Giant floating jellyfish mutated due to the harsh climate of the nether? Some other mob that's been warped due to eating warped mushrooms in netherwart? Or is it half of a person after some builders had a little too much fun one night? Nobody knows, but we can guess. They could have been some form of squid brought to the nether and tested on by the ancient builders. They were changed thanks to their diet of warped mushrooms, crimson root, and netherwort. They could have survived in water and cauldrons, since that's still a thing. They got bigger, and thanks to the climate, they developed an immunity to lava and fire, and their ink morphed into the ability to shoot fireballs from their mouths. It's gruesome and horrifying, but that's what happens when you experiment on squids in hell. I'm guessing. I haven't tried that yet. And at 4, Forgotten Souls. Minecraft and Minecraft Dungeons are separate games. However, aspects in one game can help in finding lore in another. Take the FNAF series for example. Details from one game can make sense for details in another, and the souls from Minecraft Dungeons help give us an explanation about one of Minecraft's deadliest mobs, the Vex. The Vex can be summoned by an Evoker, an Illager variant that only spawns in woodland mansions or during a raid. The Vexes were always a mystery. We didn't quite know what they were until we figured out that they were most likely souls, like what we can collect in Minecraft Dungeons. The Evokers literally have control over life and death, something they were searching for and got banished for. They can do it. They have the technology, and it's showcased in the Vex. And those Vex can be mighty powerful when wielding an axe, so it's very concerning that these can just be summoned out of nowhere and can do harm. But where did these souls come from? Are they dead villagers or dead players? Who knows? And at 3, zombie virus. How could there possibly be a zombie virus, you may be asking? It's a simple game and nobody turns into a zombie unless it's a villager being killed by a zombie. And that would be true, unless they're found in the nether. If you bring a piglin or hoglin into the overworld from the nether, within 30 seconds they will have converted into their zombie variant. Why would this be a hint towards a zombie virus? Well, they wouldn't have the immune system to fight against the virus. However, after generations, everything in the overworld is immune, unless otherwise compromised, like getting killed by a zombie, or for pigs, getting hit by a lightning bolt. It makes sense, and is pretty horrifying when you think about it, knowing that the difference between us and our little green friend is that we were born a few generations later. Little green friend means zombie, not anything else. That also reminded me of the green-eyed monster from the Berenstain Bears, episode 10, or something like that. That little Grinch knockoff had me scared as hell, as a child, at least. Not really now. I mean, I watched the episode now, just to make sure I wasn't crazy, but yeah. As a kid, I could hardly watch the episode. In it too, origins of everything. Minecraft is an interesting game lore-wise. Like, everything we see has to come from somewhere. All the monsters, creatures, and buildings have to have a beginning, but what was it? One Reddit user going by the name me suggests that the reason we have so many different monsters to fight, but no other builders, is because Herobrine changed them all into these mobs. Think about it. While some of these creatures like skeletons and zombies can be explained away thanks to being reanimated builders, where did the others like creepers, endermen, spiders, guardians, villagers, blazes, and more come from? Sure, we have explanations for some, like the idea that creepers could be plants, but there's official Minecraft merch that shows creepers with TNT in their bodies. So could these be ancient builders who were demolitionists or miners? Herobrine also may have started as a creepypasta, but as soon as removed Herobrine was put in the patch notes, he became canon. This could very well be the origin of Minecraft. And for those of you who say he isn't canon, he's literally in the patch notes. Even if they didn't actually have to remove him, putting removed Herobrine in the patch notes makes him canon. It's an official source. Finally, in at number 1, the Void. What is the Void? Well, it's fairly simple in our world. It's the bottom of the generated world that leads to nothing. But what is it in-game? Inside the game world, the Void is just an endless fall with nothing on the other side. We somehow die from falling out of the world, but does this mean that the Void kills us? Or is it us freezing to death like in the dark void of space? Or is it suffocating us by cutting off all the oxygen? If you fall out at the end, you don't land in the overworld, so it's not above anything. What is going on? How does the Void kill us? Obviously, it's a painful way to go, considering how it takes a while, and we can survive it using golden apples, with the full inventory being able to keep you alive for around 8 hours or something like that. So that would be incredibly painful and is honestly terrifying to think about, especially because it's possible to break bedrock thanks to glitches. So it's possible to fall out of the world in every dimension, not just the end.
And at number 10 is post-apocalyptic. This one's a tad long, so I'll try to give you guys the Cole's notes here. So in the past, there was another world where magic was a common occurrence. They discovered how to open up portals, and discovered the Nether, but it was filled with hostile monsters and portals to the Nether were banned. The Ender Dragon tried to invade but failed, but a curse or illness spread across the land, causing people to turn to zombies. Everyone fled, and this is where the game begins, with Steve potentially being the last human survivor on the planet. Up next, number 9 is Herobrine. The Herobrine theory started off as a creepypasta, and despite developers stating that no such thing as Herobrine exists, many players still think it does. So essentially this comes from a story of a player running into another version of Steve in single player mode, who appeared to have empty eyes and would create random constructions, like sand pyramids in the ocean and 2x2 tunnels. Needless to say, this one was disproved, since there is nothing that exists in the code that references an entity like this, and a lot of the images that appeared online were clearly photoshopped. Our next theory is one that claims the game is subtly religious, specifically Christian. Theorists say that the game is an attempt to teach Christian values on players to help convert them, and each monster in the game is an allegory for one in the Bible, like the Ender Dragon, who is Satan. And the Nether? Yep, you guessed it, that's hell. Villagers are supposed to be disciples, which almost ties into this other theory that villagers are Jewish based on their appearance looking like a traditional Jewish garb. But don't worry guys, there's no subliminal conversion messages proven to be in the game. Plus the theory has a ton of holes, and Notch, the maker of the game, is an open atheist, so. Up next, number 7 is creepers are pigs. Here's the theory that ended up being true. Sort of, or at least part of it. When the game was first released, many fans were quick to point out the resemblance between creepers and pigs. So during the development of the game, creator Notch was toying with the pig model. which led him to accidentally create creepers since he liked how this distorted pig looked. Fans took this further by suggesting that creepers are an evolved species of pig, with its appearance being an adaptation in order to camouflage, and their occupation of caves due to the fact that mushrooms exist in there, and they need food. Up next, number 6 is existential crisis. The ending of Minecraft has always been a bit of an enigma, but in a video by the game theorist, this strange ending is broken down. So, recap time. Once the player defeats the Ender Dragon in this update of the game, they get an incredibly long poetic scroll of text, a conversation that happens between two godlike characters. Instead of the philosophical garbage about getting outside and enjoying real life, game theory argues that the ending is actually incredibly empowering and inspirational. So the speakers of this poem are the things that craft the universe and hold it together. The idea is that we are made up of the same stuff as the universe.
We're in the universe, and the universe is in us.
Therefore, we already have everything we need to build what we want to create in life, like you can in Minecraft. It's all about waking up to how important you are to crafting the world. In at number 5 is It's a Dream. One of the more popular theories out there is that the game is actually a dream, with survival mode being reminiscent of a nightmare, and creative mode being lucid dream. Evidence for this is the ambient noises that sound distorted and muffled, with the argument that these are noises from waking life. And to top it all off, this ties in perfectly with the ending to Minecraft, and the fact that the phrase wake up is repeated. But that does contradict that other theory we mentioned earlier. Ooh, opinions. Up next, number 4 is the void is a black hole. From the YouTube channel Loxton and Noggin, this theory explores how the void could be a black hole. You die immediately whenever you enter the void and lose all of your inventory, and falling into the void shares many characteristics with what entering a black hole would be like. Scientists have determined that if you were to fall into a black hole because of the way gravity reacts inside of one, you would gradually be snapped in half, again and again and again. Dark. But it is similar to what happens in Minecraft when you fall into the void. Your health drops and drops and drops until it's entirely gone. The theory goes on to compare the two by exploring the aesthetics of the void juxtaposed to quantum mechanics of a black hole, so definitely go check out their video for more on it. It even explains how the world of Minecraft could exist next to a black hole, aka the void. Super neat. Up next, number 3 is why creepers explode. Another one from the game theorist, this one explores why the creepers explode. Long story short, he explains that creepers could be made of peat moss, which explodes to spread its spores, and shares a lot of common attributes and properties to creepers. It also has electrochemical properties that could explain how they react when they're hit by lightning. Creepers also drop gunpowder, which just so happens to be made of the same properties of peat moss. Plus, peat moss can sometimes spontaneously combust. Sorry, pig theory. I know which theory train I'm jumping on. Up next, number 2 is Minecraft is about mental health. This one comes from YouTuber Rolly, where he believes that Minecraft is actually an allegory for mental health, specifically depression and substance abuse. Turning on survival mode is a metaphor for dealing with the monsters within. Skeletons are like skeletons in your closet. Previous events are actions that continue to haunt you. Zombies are the population of people who don't understand or are unable to empathize with mental health issues. And creepers? Well, they're depression. They sneak up on you and explode, blowing you and your world apart without any warning. The theory also extends to you chasing after the Ender Dragon, who is a giant metaphor for drugs and dealing with substance abuse. And finally, in our number 1 spot is Minecraft takes place on a dead star. This one is probably the most popular theory to date. Applying astrophysics to Minecraft, this theory by Spumwack explores the possibility that the world of Minecraft takes place on a dead star, or rather, a dead sun. How so? It starts with the question of why the moon and sun in the game are opposite of each other. Stars don't move around the moon, so that implies that the stars are orbiting around the Earth. This leads Spumwack to argue that this is either because of an anomaly or out of its inhabitants' attempt to stop the race from becoming extinct. He argues that they could have possibly detonated their own planet, making it a new sun, since suns eventually die out, and then they covered the dead sun with stone and dirt, making it a giant terrarium, which is why there's incredibly dense rock when you dig deeper beneath the ground. It's a little bit complicated, so definitely go watch the video if you guys want to know more. Did my best to Coles notes it.